Part 2, Chapter 34. I already looked in there. I can't find her anywhere, Taylor said. Okay, everyone, calm down, Bree said. Ricky asked security if Jordan went out during the night. Taylor, you go search downstairs again. Jojo, you go look upstairs again. Logan, you search the front yard. They all went to search, but it was Jojo who texted everyone to let them know that he'd found her. Taylor had looked in young Eric's room, but apparently didn't notice that the closet door was slightly open. Jojo knelt down beside her, gave a quick thanks, and that she was okay. She was sound asleep on the floor of Eric's closet. She wore one of his shirts and lay on a pillow formed out of a few more of his shirts. She truly looked pitiful, and his heart went out to her. His brother would not want her to hurt like this, but Jojo had no idea how to help her, mostly because he felt the same way, only he couldn't, or rather wouldn't, give in to grief. Not yet, anyway. He put his hand on her shoulder. Jordan? She stirred and her eyes blinked open. She slowly sat up. Rough night? Sighing, she nodded, touching the shirt she wore, a long-sleeve, button-down shirt he wore to church recently. She looked up at Jojo. I guess this looks pretty silly. No, it really doesn't. It looks sad. It looks like the girl who loves my brother is hurting, and I am sorry that you are. But Jordan, we really need to think positively. Eric is coming home, probably today. You need to get up and get started on your day. Will you join us on the beach? On the beach? Yes, it's almost 6 in the morning. You guys are going to work out? Well, it's not always a workout. Sometimes it's just the keno stretch and warm up. Every time it includes prayer. It's something that is very much a part of Eric's life, of all of our lives. And Eric and I have done it since we were about 2 or 3, and Logan since he was 11, and little Em has started waking up and wanting to come down. And my father started when he was 9 because that's when my grandfather came into their lives. And Grandma since she was 35, and Granddad since he was 14. And today, it's our way of honoring Eric while he's gone. When Granddad was in the hospital, we did it in honor of him. And back a few years ago, when that crazy doctor kidnapped our parents, we did it for them. We always do it. It's like drinking water or praying, just something we do to honor, to give comfort, and it helps. Come watch, and then take a shower and get dressed and try to eat a little something. Please. Jordan nodded. Okay. Go ahead, I'll be right down. If it honors 3, I'm all in. Jojo smiled at her. My brother has really good taste in women. He does he? How many women are we talking about? He smiled. Just one. New scene. When Jordan walked down to the beach, what she saw made her feel very reverent. The first rays of sun began to sparkle on the water, turning the ocean from a steely gray to a vibrant blue. In a circle on the beach, all choosing to don a plain white martial arts uniform, were 8 hard bodies. Ricky, Joey, Jeffy, Cam, Jojo, Logan, Gabe, and Taylor. They were moving in tandem, seemingly swaying to the rhythm of the ocean, doing the keno stretch, and then went into the keno special form. They were breathtaking. At the end of the form, they all simply sank down onto their knees. Jojo motioned for Jordan to come and join them, which she did. They went around the circle, each one offering their own prayers. Jordan couldn't get over it. This family was strong. They not only moved together as one, but they thought as one, prayed as one, operated as one. Like minds, like bodies, like spirits. This must be like what living in heaven must be. And it was proof that with a little effort on everyone's part, living a life that looked like a little slice of heaven on earth was possible. Even for humans. Though she was beginning to think that this family was not quite human. Maybe they were like earth angels. When everyone had prayed but Jordan, Jojo softly nudged her. Don't be shy. Just say what's in your heart. She drew a deep breath. Father, What's in my heart is not so pleasant, but I'm trying. If you know everything, then you know what's in my heart. I am terrified of losing the guy I love. I'm terrified to think about what he's going through, and I want you, God, to save him, to intervene and to bring him home. He wouldn't be where he is if he hadn't met me. So please, God, don't let it be that me coming into Eric's life is the reason he leaves this world. Please, please. Yes, yes, I'm begging. This whole family has said that they will abide by your will. Well, I don't understand that yet. I don't see how your will could mean that Eric doesn't come home. So help me to understand. And please bring him home to us. We love him so. And your son, Jesus, he went through a lot of pain and suffering. I get that. But surely you don't want Eric to do that too, do you? Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm being disrespectful. I don't mean it that way. I'm just trying to understand. And Jojo said for me to say what's in my heart. So I did. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen, they all said loudly. New scene. The family had all showered and eaten breakfast prepared by Bree and Jeffy and Joey, who apparently liked to cook. Everyone was dressed and everyone's nerves were on edge. Ricky left for the main branch of his bank, though he knew he would be drawing funds from several locations with the help of the FBI and all guarded by Ameritech. Jordan checked in with her mom, who'd sent the kids off to school with 2 Ameritech agents and gone into work to see if she could find a replacement for herself so that she could help the Kinos. The Ameritech agents would not leave the school, but would stick around, keeping watch over things, making sure no one came to check Jamie or Josie out of school except their own mother. They were slightly entertained by the Monday morning hustle and bustle of kids arriving at the school, some on buses, some being dropped off by parents, and some simply walking. One kid was carrying a large poster board, obviously a school project. He dropped it, and another kid stepped on it, seemingly on purpose. It looked like a bully move to Agent Brown, so he went to rescue the kid, told the kid who stomped on the poster to move his big foot, or he'd move it for him. He picked up the poster and wiped off the smudges for the kid and handed it back to him, and the little boy smiled up at him, and he patted his head and went back to the car. Agent Wyatt smiled at Agent Brown. "You're such a hero." Brown laughed. "Well, poor kid. You work hard on some stupid school project and some moron comes along and messes it up. It sounds like you have some childhood issues you need to work out." Brown nodded. "I just might. Like I used to beat up this kid who couldn't keep his mouth shut." Wyatt laughed. "Noted." They sat watching latecomers run inside quickly. The morning bell rang, meaning everyone should now be in homeroom. And then a man in a business suit carrying a lovely pink backpack ran into the school. The man headed down the main hall, and when he saw an older child, he asked, "Where's the 5th grade hall?" It's down there. Not that first hall. That goes to the cafeteria, but that last hall, all the way to the end." The man smiled. "Thank you so much, young man." He headed back to the last hall, got there, reached up, and pulled the fire alarm, and watched as teachers and kids came out of their classrooms in neat little lines. He followed them out the back doors onto the field of a large playground. He walked along the line of 5th graders holding up the backpack, and when he spotted the one he was looking for, he called her name. Josie turned and looked to see who was calling her name. A man approached, smiling at her. "Josie Perez?" "Yes, sir. I have your backpack." She shook her head. "That's not mine." His expression changed. He didn't argue with her. He simply punched her in the jaw. The child fell unconscious. A couple of kids screamed. Teachers came running, but he'd already hefted her over his shoulder and headed toward the wooded area at the back of the playground. In only seconds, Josie and the man were gone. People were screaming. Kids started running back into the building. Someone said something about a gun, and there was pandemonium. Outside in the front parking lot, the minute the fire alarm went off, both Ameritech agents jumped from the car and headed in, but a resource officer stopped them and told them they couldn't enter the building. They tried to explain to him that they had the administrator's permission to be on the premises, but the officer only shook his head. Not during an emergency. Well, that would be the time you need us most, Agent Wyatt complained. You need to move, officer, and let us pass, or we're going to move you ourselves, Agent Brown threatened. The officer fingered his gun, then touched the mic on his shirt and called for backup. But at that moment, everyone was distracted by screams and kids running toward the front door of the school. In essence, all hell had broken loose. New scene. Young Eric woke when the door opened, and the guy who usually brought him water entered. Today he wore a smile and held up a McDonald's bag. Got something special for you today, mi amigo? Eric blinked. He wasn't sure what to think about them actually feeding him. Was it a Last Supper kind of deal? Was it a gesture of goodbye? Or did it mean he needed to eat because he's going to be around a lot longer? The guy carefully unlocked one hand from the cuff and helped Eric lower his arm. He actually briskly rubbed his arm to help him get the feeling back. And finally, Eric was able to hold the bag in his hand. He pulled out 2 arepas and quickly ate them. Then a bag of fried potato rounds. And there was also an orange juice. Eric ate and drank before he asked his question, which he did in Spanish. What's the big celebration that I get some food? The guy looked apologetic again and also spoke in Spanish. You're going to need your strength. Eric couldn't stop the sinking feeling, that pit in your stomach sickness that came when you know things are about to get bad. He swallowed hard. What's about to happen? The guy didn't answer, only shook his head, then went to the door, opened it, and called out something in Spanish. Are you coming or not? 2 more of his jailers arrived, though not the guy who usually held a gun. He had no idea what that meant. They went about the chore of chaining his legs and then cutting off the duct tape that held them to the chair. When he resisted putting his hand back up to be cuffed, the other 2 guys used both their hands to wrestle Eric's arm into place. Once the cuffs were secure, they unlocked the padlock that held them to the wall bolt. And slowly, he shuffled out to the outhouse, trying to take his time to breathe the air and feel the sun. The day felt strange, something ominous. The guys who escorted him usually talked and joked around with each other, but today they were quiet. So, where's Perez? Is he hanging around here somewhere? Eric asked. He's busy, but he'll be here soon. Why? You miss him? Eric didn't bother to answer his question. So, why did I get a meal today? Why is today special? You don't know? Well, how could I know? The men laughed. Well, today, your daddy is getting our money. Eric frowned. That didn't sound right. Of course, he's probably just playing them. He was sure of that. But that means an exchange will be taking place. So maybe they were about to move him. He hoped something was going to happen today because he really wasn't feeling too well. He was weak. He felt like he was burning up this morning, while yesterday he was chilled, and he wondered if the cut on his chest actually was getting infected. It would be nice to snuggle down into his own bed and have some herbal remedy, tea, and sleep. New scene. It took almost an hour for the news to reach Jewel Perez's ears. News that her daughter Josie had been taken from the school. The perp, dressed in a business suit, had taken her out through the back of the school into a neighborhood where he was picked up by a driver. A woman out walking her dog saw the whole thing. An APB had been put out on the car, but so far there was nothing. The news hit the Keno family about the same time as Jewel. Agents Wyatt and Brown took Jamie from the school once they were cleared of arranging the kidnapping of Josie and were shown to be on the list to pick up the children. They picked up Jewel and headed back to the Kenos, who surrounded Jamie and Jewel with their love. Jewel went almost catatonic. Bree stayed near her, trying to help. After all, she knew exactly how she felt. Jordan and Jamie huddled together. Jordan's body was shaking. She couldn't take any more. Jeffy said that both Jordan and Jewel are suffering from emotional shock and that everyone should not try to talk about the situation with them, but let them go ahead and shut down. It was a bodily defense mechanism. Offer them something warm to drink, hold them, hug them, but don't try to speak with them. Bree called Ricky to let him know what was happening. He was at the bank gathering money and waiting for Jason to give him some good news. So, that's Perez's extra precaution. He said he was going to take extra precautions to make sure I'll deliver the money. I guess he figures I may let my son suffer, but not a little girl. That's actually sound thinking, Bree reasoned. I mean, tell me you aren't more inclined to give him what he wants to get them both back. I don't know about him getting what he wants, but getting what he deserves, that's coming. What's the status on the chopper searching? Well, we started with Jason's fleet of 10, but have had almost 30 other pilots volunteer their time and their helos to search, so Jason and Joey have reorganized the grids and they're working them. It's just a matter of buying time now, which I will do by not being able to get the currency as quickly as I thought, which is actually the truth. The banks are scrambling to come up with that much in small bills. We still have a few hours before he'll text me, and I will give him a thumbs down and we'll go from there. Ricky, you don't think he'll, fly into a rage and just kill them, do you? No. He saw dollar signs when he realized Jordan was dating Eric. Money is what he wants. He won't jeopardize that. I'm going to need that proof of life video of Eric saying the words I give him to say right before I supposedly make the drop. He'll give us that. And hopefully, we'll find them before that ever happens. New scene. Young Eric was pretty sure it'd been more than 2 hours since the morning visit. He was reminded of being in jail, and after breakfast, he'd expected to leave any minute, and it didn't happen. He'd hoped something was happening. The guy said Eric needed his strength. His head jerked up when the door opened. His guy walked in with a bottle of water and another McDonald's bag. He undid Eric's one hand and put the bag in it. Eric immediately dropped it, and the guy rubbed Eric's arm again, retrieved the bag, and handed it to him. He held it and looked inside and then back up at the guy. He was smiling as if he was proud of the contents. The guy shrugged. You said you wanted American food. Young Eric pulled out a quarter-pounder with cheese and some fries. Well, thanks, but this is 2 meals in one day, and my second bottle of water. Where am I going? You guys gonna take me out and leave me in the desert? You wish, the gun guy said as he appeared at the door. Eric eyed him. Strangely, he was all dressed up in a suit and tie. You going someplace fancy? He smiled. Been there, done that. The pit in Eric's stomach was growing. He ate the rest of his meal in silence, and when he'd finished, another one of the dwarfs showed up at the door. Let's do this, he said. They chained young Eric's legs as usual and cut away the duct tape. He'd grown used to the sting of the cut pieces of tape being pulled from his skin. They removed his cuffs from the lock and again walked him out to the outhouse. He was growing more and more uneasy, but he couldn't put his finger on it. The gun guy put his foot out in front of Eric, thinking to trip him, but Eric saw it and jumped the foot, and the other 2 guys laughed. What was that for? Eric asked. Gun guy shrugged. Just for the fun of hurting you, you spoiled rich little brat. He didn't try to trip him again, but just hauled off and punched him. And Eric went down, and the other 2 guys helped him up. On the way back to the mine entrance, the gun guy tried again and succeeded in tripping Eric, and while he was down, one of the other guys decided it would be fun to kick him a few times. Eric realized the 2 guys truly hated him, and it was obviously for the family he was born into, because Eric had never met either of them before. Hey, amigos, the third guy said as he helped Eric to his feet. Let's just get this done, he said in Spanish. They led him back into the room, and he sat down on the chair. Not wanting to fight, he lifted his hands in the air. Oh, no, not this time. Leave your hands down, Gun Guy said, as he immediately began wrapping the duct tape around Eric's arms and then around his chest and arms. And in only a few times around, he could no longer move his arms at all. They were taped down like a silver mummy. They continued wrapping the tape around him to make sure there was no way he could get out of it. The claustrophobia kicked in pretty quick, but he tried not to show it. You never let them know your weakness. One guy bent to grab his legs and started taping them, and he tried to fight them off, but they kept the chains on his ankles until they had his legs securely taped together, using every bit of duct tape on the roll. What's going on, guys? You might as well let me know. I obviously can't fight you. Oh, you're about to know, Gun Guy laughed. The other two men went over to retrieve the large pine box and brought it to sit next to Eric. They opened two latches, and Eric looked into the box, still thinking he would see weapons, rifles, something like that. But it was empty. And it finally dawned on his dulled brain. Immediately, he bashed the closest person with his head, for it was all he had to fight with. The guy yelled and dropped down, holding his head. Eric fought, but all he succeeded in doing was like a worm, wiggling all over the ground. The guy whose head Eric bashed got back up, and the three of them struggled hard to get Eric into the box, but they finally succeeded. We're going to bury you where no one will find you, Gun Guy said. You're going to die a long, slow death. Eric could barely catch his breath. Then why the food and water, huh? Why? Was it to ensure I'm found before I expire? Yeah, that's what Perez says. But he don't have to know that I'm not going to take you to the coordinates he's given your famous daddy. And believe me, he won't really care either. When I do tell him, he'll get a good laugh out of it. They started to close the lid, and Eric panicked. Wait, please, wait, don't do this. Hush, little baby, Gun Guy mocked. They closed the lid and latched it. No! Eric screamed, but knew that wouldn't help him. He tried to fight the panic. He tried to calm himself, but he couldn't. I can't do this. I can't do this. Oh, God, please, I can't do this, he whispered. He tried to move. He tried to bang his head against the lid, but there was no room to even do that. His forehead was already touching the wood. He tried to draw his legs up to kick out the end of the box, but again, there was no room. He was in there tight. He was sweating and felt the tears as they coursed down his face. I can't do this. I can't do this, he cried. Please, God, help me. Please help me. Please. He was sobbing now. I can't do it. It's too much. Just take me now. Father, please, just take me now. Take me. Take my life. I want to come be with you now. Please, God, take me now. Take me now, he screamed. Eric, be still. He quieted. Be still and breathe. He tried, but the tears welled up again. Shh, be still. I'm with you. Listen to what I say. You will be free. And then you must fight. Fight hard, fierce like the lion as he tears his prey, swift like the strike of the cobra. Fight. I will, he whispered, I will. At that moment, the lid of the box was opened, and now there were 4 men looking down at him. Looks like we jumped the gun, one said with a grin. Perez says we can't put you away until we make one more video. He wants you back on the wall. They lifted him out of the box, and he closed his eyes in gratitude. He looked for an opening as they tore away the duct tape from his arms, but the moment his right wrist was free of tape, they clapped the cuff on it. And then before he was even free of the tape on his left arm, the moment his wrist was visible, they clamped the cuff on it. Then before they untaped his legs, they attached the cuffs back to the bolt in the wall. Cutting the tape off his legs was always a slow process, so they left one man to do it, and it was the food and water guy. Eric tried to calm himself and use his brain, which was hard because he felt sluggish and slow-witted. What's your name? Eric asked him. Joel, he replied. Joel, how did you come to be involved with Perez? Joel shrugged. I needed the money. My cousin was in prison with Perez. He got me to help. They didn't tell me they were going to hurt you or take you somewhere to die in that box. They just said they needed someone to take care of you while they arranged for the money to be delivered. And now that you see what's going to happen, you're still going to go through with it? He looked apologetic again. I have no choice. Joel finished cutting the tape away from young Eric's legs and stood. I'm sorry, but they will find you. I'll make sure of it. Joel, I cannot go back in that box. I can't. I can't help you with that. I have to go get the other roll of duct tape to tape your legs to the chair, or I could be the next one to get buried, and it won't be in a box. I'll be right back, he said in Spanish. Wait, is Perez coming back before I get put in the box? Perez is back. He's out in his car giving directions to someone who will be texting with your father. But then he's leaving because it will almost be time. When is he leaving? I can't say for certain. Approximately another hour, 2 hours? He should be leaving in about an hour. I'll go get the tape. Eric watched him go. His heart was pounding, his breathing labored. What was he going to do? Fight, Eric. Fight hard. He swallowed and nodded. His legs were currently free. Now was his only chance because he was not going back into that box. He'd rather be dead. Joel came back with tape. Just one more question, Eric said. Joel nodded. Do you have keys to these cuffs in your pocket? See, I do, but I'm not going to take them off, so just put it out of your mind. He bent down next to Eric's legs to start taping, but Eric moved like the cobra. In a swing of his legs, he had Joel's head in a death vise. Joel used his fist to pound on Eric's thigh, but it had no more impact than a fly to Eric. He squeezed his muscles. Do you feel how I can easily cut off your air completely? Joel grunted a small "see." Listen to me carefully. I can snap your neck in a split second, or I can let you live, and all you have to do to live is reach inside your pocket and put those cuff keys in my hand. No, they will kill me. I will kill you too, and then I can use my feet to get the keys from your pocket. I will kill you, Joel, because I'm not going back into that box. I don't want to kill you. I'd like to spare your life, if only for the kindness that you've shown me. But I will kill you. What is it going to be? Joel hesitated, so Eric began to squeeze, and Joel's eyes started to roll into the back of his head, and Eric loosened his grip. Running out of time, Joel, he began to tighten again. Joel reached into his pocket, pulled out the keys, and reached up as high as he could, and was barely able to place them in Eric's hand. Eric grunted as he kept the pressure on Joel's neck and concentrated on unlocking both cuffs. His pounding heart calmed a bit when he finally did it. He immediately let Joel loose from his legs, but quickly put him in a headlock. Sorry, this is just to give me some time. He squeezed until Joel lost consciousness and then laid him on the floor and quickly taped his arms behind his back and then his legs together and lastly put tape over his mouth, and Eric slipped stealthily out of the large door into the corridor. There were 4 doors, and he had no idea who or what was behind each one, and he felt like he had to clear his way. So he opened the first door to his left. The room was empty. He closed it and opened the door on his right. Nothing but a couple of mattresses on the floor and some bedding. And just as he closed that door, 2 of the 7 dwarfs came running down the corridor at him. One had a gravity knife, the other seemed to be unarmed, but was very large. The one with the knife charged right in, but Eric merely kicked a low kick to his knee at just the right moment, and the guy cried out and fell to the ground, broken kneecap. His knife fell from his grip, and Eric only had time to kick it aside as the big guy came at him. He was big, but no match for Eric's speed or strength, and Eric punched him a dozen times, and he fell. But when he did, he grabbed the knife from the floor, and he swung. Eric dodged until he was able to grab his wrist. He twisted and actually jumped into a flip and broke his wrist and took the knife. Unfortunately, the broken wrist didn't seem to stop him, and he tried to grab Eric and put him in a headlock, but Eric made his way to the man's back, and as he'd been taught, he ran that knife across the guy's carotid artery. Blood spurted. The man fell to his knees and then face first onto the ground. Eric stood there breathing hard, looking at what he'd just done. There was an ache in his heart and in his stomach, but he'd been told to fight hard, and he did. And he was not going back in that box. He looked up to see two more come charging at him. One of them had no weapon, and the other was Gun Guy. The one with no weapon simply charged Eric, and he was easy to sidestep, spin, and kick him in the throat. He was down, maybe for good, because Eric had not held back, and he was pretty sure he crushed the guy's trachea. The Gun Guy walked slowly up to Eric with a smile on his face. He had the gun pointed at Eric's head, as he loved to do. What are you going to do now, huh, Kino? Eric moved closer. The question is, what are you going to do? Shoot me now, and you'll never get your money. So how do you think you're going to subdue me, huh? The guy stepped closer, which is what Eric wanted. I could just shoot you right between the eyes right now, and that would almost be worth losing the money. Yes, or Eric moved with blinding speed and flipped the gun from the hands of the gun guy into his own. Or I could shoot you, he smiled. Or we can walk back into the back room and I'll tie you up or tape you up and you can wait it out. That's your only option if you want to live. The guy lunged and Eric pulled the trigger. The guy was surprised that much was obvious. He sunk down. Eric hit him square in the chest and he couldn't help but think of his grandfather, and he shuddered. But another guy came running into the mine yelling. Eric guessed he heard the gunshot. Eric yelled for him to stop, but the guy came right at him, and Eric pulled the trigger again, but only hit him in the arm. He fired one more time and got him in the chest, and the guy dropped. Eric glanced down at the 9mm in his hand. Out of bullets. 3 bullets. He only had 3 bullets. Going back into his original plan, he opened the last door on the left, and it too had a mattress on the floor, but nothing else. Then he opened the door on the right, and what he saw stopped him in his tracks. Sitting in the room was another wooden box, and in the back left corner of the room, curled up with her legs drawn up to her chest, sat a little dark-haired girl. She blinked up at him with her beautiful brown eyes. Josie? Eric said. She rose and ran to him, throwing herself into his arms. Oh, baby girl, oh, sweetheart. She cried, squeezed his neck with her arms in a death grip. Don't leave me, she cried. Oh, honey, I won't. I got you now. I got you. He hugged her tight. Listen now, we have to get out of here. You stay right next to me here and do whatever I tell you to do. If I say sit, then you sit. If I say run, then you run. Got it? She nodded. But I don't want to run without you. You do what I say, and if I tell you to run, that means I'll catch up to you. Understand? Yes, sir. He stood and set her on her feet. I still haven't found your father, and I don't know how many others there are, so just stay by me. I may have to fight for a minute. Listen, when we walk out this door, don't look at anything but me. Got it? Don't look around. Okay? Okay, she whimpered. They left the room and started toward the opening to the mine. He had already taken care of 6 guys. That means Perez could be the last one, or there could be more that he didn't know about. They slowly stepped out into the daylight. There was a car that wasn't there earlier, parked directly across from the opening, about 40 feet away. It appeared to be empty. Joel said Perez was going to leave again in about an hour, and that was about 20 minutes ago, so where is he? The next instant he found out. Perez jumped out from behind a piece of old machinery, his large hunting knife raised to strike. Go over there and sit, Eric ordered Josie. You are not going to ruin this for me, Perez said. Eric smiled. I'm thinking I already have. And you are not going to be able to get me into that box by yourself, and all your little dwarfs are done. You think some fresh-faced little punk like you can best me in a real fight? I just bested 6 guys. I'm pretty sure I can take you on. Perez swung the knife in a wide arc, and Eric jumped back, but the blade skimmed across his abdomen, making a razor-thin line of blood. Peter swung again with the same results. When he swung again, Eric tried to grab Perez's arm, but the knife nicked his own arm. Finally, when Perez swung again, Eric timed it right, grabbed the knife arm, and back kicked it. Let me try that again. Finally, when Perez swung again, Eric timed it right, grabbed the knife arm, and back-kicked Perez right in the face at the same time. Perez fell down with the force of the kick, but Eric had hold of his arm and twisted, and Perez cried out. Eric slammed his hand against the ground once, twice, 3 times, and finally he let go of the knife. But Perez was not going to give up. He jumped on Eric, and they rolled over and over, each trying to get their position in the back to put the other in a headlock and choke them out. They rolled right over the knife, and Perez was able to grab it, and he held it in both hands, pressing down toward Eric's heart with all of his strength. Eric was weak from his ordeal, but he gave a last push. He flipped Perez onto his back and shoved the knife deep into his chest. Perez tried to move to get up, but Eric held him there until he stopped moving. He struggled to his feet, looking down at the man who'd caused so many people their lives. The large knife protruding from his chest, a fitting end to such evil. Eric looked over at the look of horror on Josie's face. He went to her, blocking her view, and sat next to her and put his arms around her. It's over, sweetie. All over. Remembering what he needed to do next, he stood and went to Perez and started checking his pockets. He pulled a cell phone from one of his pants pockets and went back to stand near Josie. He called Jason. "This is Jason," Jason answered because he didn't recognize the number. "Jason, it's me." "Eric?" Jason's voice broke. Are you crying over me, Uncle Jason?" Jason cleared his throat. "They got Josie. Have you seen her?" "She's with me." "Thank God. Where are you?" "I don't know. A Mexican gold mine. Can you trace this phone?" "Yes, I can. Hold on. We'll be there shortly. We got choppers everywhere looking for you. Are you safe? What's your status?" "I just took out 7 dwarfs. I'm sorry, Uncle Jason, but most of them are dead. I don't think there's anyone else." "Okay, Eric, you did what you had to do. Listen, I got to call your father. Stay on the line. I'm going to patch you through." "Hello, Jason. Choppers find anything yet?" Ricky said as soon as he answered his phone. "No, not yet, but someone wants to say hi. Go ahead." "Hey, Dad." Silence. "Dad?" Ricky cleared his throat and sniffed. "Yes, son. Are you okay?" "Yes, sir." "Annie has Josie," Jason added. "Where's Perez?" Ricky asked. "He's lying in a puddle of blood about 10 feet from me." "Okay. We'll get all the info later. I don't want your mother or sister or girlfriend or brothers to suffer another minute. Jason, can you patch us through to Bree?" "Yes, I can. Hold on." "Hey, Jason," Bree said tearfully. "Tell me you know something. Anything." "I know something. Go ahead." "Hi, Mom," young Eric said softly. Bree gasped, which got everyone's attention. She put her phone on speaker. "Eric? Is that really you?" she cried. Logan and Jojo looked at each other and then hugged each other. Gabe and Taylor did the same. "It's me," he said, his voice choking with emotion. "Is Jordan with you?" "I'm here," Jordan said. "I love you," she said desperately, as if she wasn't sure she'd get to say it again. "And I love you too," Taylor said loudly. "And I love you too, both of you. And well, listen." They heard some mumbling and then a soft voice. "Hi, Jordan." "Josie." "Oh, thank goodness," she broke down and cried. There was another shriek in the room as Jewel and Jamie hugged each other. "Eric saved me." "Oh, baby girl," Jewel said. "Oh, Eric, thank you." "Listen, I want to talk to everyone, but not right now. I have to stay aware just in case I didn't get them all. So Jason is sending a chopper to pick us up, and I'll tell you everything later. Jason, are you still on the line?" "I'm here." "Listen, there's a bunch of dead guys, and I do not want to go back to jail because of some misunderstanding. So I need the FBI and the Federales and Americatech as witnesses to come here while I'm here and let me tell them exactly what went down. Can we make that happen?" "We can." "Okay, and I'm going to hang up now because I'm not feeling too well." "Are you injured?" "Not too bad. A few little knife cuts. I might have a concussion, but I'm kind of dizzy and nauseated, and I'm going to just sit down here and try to keep my eyes open. Okay, well, don't hang up. You don't have to talk, but don't hang up. You should hear a chopper within the next 10 minutes. Can you make it? Yes, sir, and I got Josie here to take care of me. Josie looked up at him and smiled. I know, young Eric went on. Can Josie... He stopped and drew a labored breath. Can she talk to her family while I just sit here? Yes, they're still on the line. Josie, Jules said, are you still there? Yes. Oh, sweetie, I was so worried about you. Were you scared? I was really scared, and that man that got me, he was mean, and he hit me. Oh, Josie, I'm so sorry. There are bad people in this world. And there are good people too, Mommy, like Eric. He saved me. What about your dad, Josie? Where is he? He's over there on the ground. He tried to kill Eric with a knife. Oh, honey, and did Eric beat him up? Yeah, he beat him up real bad. Well, don't you worry, sweetie. He'll go back to jail and he won't bother you ever again. No, Mom, he won't go to jail because he's dead. Ricky butted into the conversation. It sounds like some people are going to need some counseling, and I need to hang up and call Dad, Ricky said. Jason, keep me in the loop. Call your dad with the good news. I got this. And that is the end of chapter 34.